I have just finished reading Marshall Rosenberg's book on nonviolent communication, which is incredible. I highly recommend you read it for all of your communications. And while the 4 steps he describes are pretty simple, I realize that they are not easy at all, and how often I fail at them, and how instrumental getting better at communicating this way can be in transforming my relationships, in getting heard more, and in getting my needs met much more easily. So what are those 4 steps? Step number 1 is observing. Stating what you observe. Let's say, for example, that my son raises his voice at me. Step number 1 is, I notice that you are raising your voice. There's no judgment there. It's just stating the facts, taking all the judgment out. That far I can get quite easily. Step number 2 is then, well, how do I feel? And here the trick is to remember that you are always 100% responsible for how you feel. I know other people might trigger us, but they are never the cause of our feelings. That lays with you. So the second step is, how do I feel? Well, I feel nervous when you raise your voice. I feel scared. I feel uncomfortable. I feel sad. Taking responsibility for how I feel. And that far I can kind of get quite easily too. Now the next step is already really challenging for me, which is then, well, what do I need in this situation? Not what do I want you to do, not what must happen now, but what do I need? Well, in this case, I need to feel safe. I need to take 2 minutes out. I need to put some distance between us. I need to be able to speak in a lower tone of voice. These are my needs. What do I need in this situation? And step number 4 is then making a concrete, positive request to the other person. So not about all the things you don't want them to do. What do you want to happen? What do you want them to do? In this case, please lower your voice. So there are 4 steps to nonviolent communication. First, you observe the situation. You state what you observe. Second, how do you feel? Not how do you make me feel? It's your responsibility. You take responsibility for how you feel. And then step number 3 is, well, what do I need right now? What helps me right now? And I know that that is not an easy step because we're not taught to ask ourselves what we need. So let's practice that step number 3. And then step 4, once I know how I feel and what I need, I can make a concrete request. And when we are able to communicate in this way, stating what's happening, stating how we feel, stating what we need, and making a request, A, it becomes much easier to have that need met and have that request then followed, and B, it builds relationships because we become vulnerable, we become authentic, we dare to talk about how we feel and what we need rather than pointing fingers or just making demands. So I know I'm practicing this ever since I started reading that book, and I invite you to do more of that, to communicate non-violently, to really build connection, build relationship, build deep authenticity between you with that vulnerability of stating what is, how you feel, what you need, and then making a positive request. So give that a go. It's all practice, and the more we do it, the better we get.